Okay. All right. So first off here is that our target is around 7, right? 7.5 would be better. And the key difference here is actually, let me go ahead and pull up the one that's bigger. And it has everything. Let me just wait for it to sharpen up. Maybe this one's better. Okay. All right. So this one's from British Council here, as well as Ielts Australia, University of Cambridge. The first thing that you should look at is the 4 key categories, and you already looked at that before. So the biggest difference right here is that at the 5 level, it says usually maintains flow of speech, but uses repetition, self-correction, and or slow speech to keep going, right? And then at 6, is willing to speak at length, though may lose coherence at times due to occasional repetition, self-correction, or hesitation. And then at the 7 band, it says speaks at length without noticeable effort or loss of coherence, right? So one of the first things there is that being comfortable in this test is about 25% of the criteria and a small part of that inside of there, right? So 4 key categories, they have a metric and a rubric, and then that's the way that they kind of measure this first one, right? There are some other points inside of here for sure, connectives, discourse markers, transitions, but you're already good at most of those, like on the other hand, additionally, furthermore, therefore, so, right, those kinds of points. This one here is just, it's like what I just did right now, right? Where I'm looking at it, thinking about what to say, and then I'm pausing a little bit because I'm processing, right? And that's pretty normal, right? That's pretty normal. That's fine to do in the test. And that's around at the 7 band, right? But then at the 9 band, right? It's a speech, and then there's like start to finish, right? But we don't need that, like I've hit the 9 band in Korea and Thailand before when I used to do like official testing and then post the scores and like try to pull in students that way, it's really effective. I don't like doing it anymore because everybody thinks I'm like not humble or something, but yeah, that's the point. So with lexical resource, I'm just gonna drop it in here. The main point with this is that you do have to be relatively comfortable with the word, right? And if you're not comfortable with the word, then you don't have to use it, right? It's better to keep it simple, like some of the speeches that I showed you before, right? The other one is going to be that it says less common and idiomatic vocabulary skillfully, right? And so that's where you're using like upama, upama, metaphor, some certain points in the way that you describe anything really. And I'll bring up points in that when we're practicing today.
Okay, cool.
All right, next one here is we have the grammatical range and accuracy. And my point only for this one is going to be that it's something that I struggle with sometimes too. There's the sentence structure that's super comfortable for me, right? And I normally use it. However, there are other types of compound and complex sentences that we can use to make everything easier. One of the most common ones these days is not only, but also, and you know how to use that well. Right.
Yeah.
That's one of them, but you don't want to use it over and over and over again. Like other ways are going to be, here are the ones that I really like for the IELTS test. It's the one, but not only, but also, right? I like therefore as a transition. It's really quite nice, right? And then number 3 here is going to be to, and then verb, and then accomplish something maybe, right? And then comma, and then whatever after that, right? Which is really, really quite nice. Yeah, and I'll pull up a PPT here just really quickly for those sentence structures.
Paul, the IELTS test in Thailand quite easier than the overseas, isn't it?
It's pretty standard. Like there have been people that took the test in Thailand multiple times and then went to Singapore to take the test. And then later they felt like they got the score that they needed. I would say that
Because yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. Ladies first.
But okay, thank you. Why I did the practice that wow since me, I think it's harder than the practice that the test that I did in the exam and the cram with the ideas. So I just confused that is Thailand standard is lower than other standard.
Is let's see, the reading and you found the reading and listening to be a little
Is
hard.
I think reading is moderate. It's
Okay.
same with my trade, but I think listening is more harder than
Actual
in
test.
artist.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in
Okay, good,
Thailand is your
good, good, good. Because like they have had a lot of complaints about the listening actually, right?
sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's annoying a little bit because like if you miss an S or if you miss your grammatical errors, you'll miss the point. Or if you make grammatical errors, you'll miss the point. Other stuff is where like the conversations are pretty dated, right? And so it's a process of updating all of them. But I guess the best thing to assume is that if you're doing and studying something harder, then it'll make it easier for when you're doing something easier, right?
Yep.
For reading to be moderate, that's good. For speaking and writing, that's on you, right? I guess the other point inside of there is the one case that I found somebody said that it was easier abroad was when he had failed like 4 times in a row with the same examiner. Because he was getting a 5 and he was trying to get the 5.5 to get out of the country,
Oh.
And then he stopped taking it with that examiner, and then he went to Singapore, and then he got the 5.5 on the first try. So
Oh,
maybe
it's
maybe that was
depends.
some
Yeah.
bias there. I don't know for sure, right? Okay, let me find a point for you. I gotta go to Google Drive. Okay, going to my drive. I should be really a lot better at this. Okay, and I'm looking for lesson 2, and I'm showing you sentence structures to play around with. And I used to have it downloaded on my computer, but looks like I have to sync my G drive with this. Yeah, it's gonna be a while to find it. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay here. Sentences, ways to start. It's where Google is going to be faster than me digging around for the document, which is funny, right? Okay. Oh, this is great. Oh, see, this is like 50% of my other document already.
Oh, it's
That's okay. That's okay. We just need the breakdown list right here. Okay. So starting with an adjective is pretty uncommon these days, right?
Yep.
It's pretty uncommon, but you will see it in a test. It is a little awkward, so I don't recommend using it, right? But here's an example. Hot. He jumped into the pool. Awkward mag, huh?
Yeah, it's really awkward.
Yeah, but it's
Like,
grammatically correct. Yes. Right. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Adverb, you already know how to do that, usually, unfortunately, da, 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 da. Prepositional phrase, right? So that was the one that I started with too, right? Other ones that you can do that are really nice are going to be for the people, comma, da, 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 da. For the business,
Oh, yeah.
da, da, da.
For blah, blah,
For
blah.
myself, da, 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 da. For
From
you,
my
da, 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 da.
from my
Yeah.
perspective, blah blah blah.
Yeah, from my perspective, right? Those are all starting with prepositions. And it's perfectly fine to make a complex sentence that starts with the prepositional phrase, and you got a comma and then something else. Right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Infinitive phrase there. Infinitive phrase is actually the 2 part. Sorry. All right. That would be the to go. Right. That would
To
be
go.
infinitive phrase, right? But
Infinitive phrase, the now that shall we not change the form, right? No es or s, right? To and
yep.
the real now, right?
Yep, keep it base. Base form is the easiest way to go on that one, right? I just confused it with the prepositional phrase because I know to is a preposition, and then yes, but the infinitive phrase there though is there, right? Now the gerund phrase is a little bit tricky because the grammar on it is a bit of a debate, right? So
Yeah.
like the technicality of it is this, where it's not correct to start with a gerund as the subject of your sentence, technically. Okay. All right. Like
Okay.
people don't like it when they do that. But it happens all the time though. That's the thing, it's like swimming is fun, right?
Yeah.
Swimming, dancing, and hitting people is amazing, something like that, right? So we have here starting sentences with gerunds, and I'm only going to spend like a minute on this.
Dolan is right. Like the group of word is begin with ing, right? And
Yep.
it have characteristics of subject in the word in the group of that word, those words, right? I'm not sure. I'm not.
Can you repeat the last part?
Yeah.
lags a little.
That group of that group of words have duty, which is a subject, right? In the gerund group.
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's take a look at the example to make it clear, right? So it's that, see, the teacher says, don't start a sentence with a gerund. But then we see over here, it's okay to start a sentence with a gerund, right? So that's what I was talking about before, where it's like super confusing, you know? This one is good, right? We have learning to confront his problems, subject, is an important part of character's growth and maturity in the novel, right? And it's a perfectly fine sentence. However, the reason I said it was wrong before is that, yeah, that's where some teachers, some educational experts, some intellectuals, they say, don't do that, right? Here, then we got a bunch of people saying like, that's good, it's fine. Believing your teacher would be, you know? Right? Yeah. So here, example, sleeping much is not conducive for health. Exercising regularly and sensibly is a key to good health, right? So final conclusion for me is going to be, it's fine. Okay.
Okay,
right?
that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Participial phrase, that's going to be where it is the past participle form instead of the present participle form. Present participle form is the one that is a verb plus ing, and then past participle form is the one with ed, right? So you can actually use both in this case, but it's not necessarily a gerund, right? And it's confusing. Like here's one example.
Yeah.
Embedded into the task, he worked all night, right? Or ingrained, right? So ingrained is a verb, and then we put ed, ingrained into the task. He worked all night.
Okay.
And so that would be an example of using a participle phrase there, right? Ones that I like for, like, let's take a look at the Ielts prompts. I'm only updating a few people on my investments, and I have to talk to you about that later too at the end. Okay. Please pick a month between, or please pick a number between 1 and 6.
1 and 6. I prefer to what is it?
Pardon?
I prefer 3.
Number 3. Okay. Oh, you're a 3 lover. I like, yeah, 3 is one of my favorite numbers. Okay, here we go. And then we'll go with 3 just to adjust to, oh, keep it consistent. Oh my God, part 1 so long on that one. Okay, so we have, let's talk about your home. Do you live in a house or an apartment, right? And then we have, starting with an adverb, happily, I live in a house. That'll be one. Starting with an adjective, happy, I live in a house, right?
Happy, I live in a house.
To be happy, I live in my house, right? That would be starting with the infinitive phrase, right? Then we have the participle phrase, which is going to be organized.
Organized.
My house represents the way that I live.
Organized. So you think I should take a note?
Yeah, still awkward. Yeah. But it's pretty-ish, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Right. So what we should learn from that is don't mess with number 6 right now.
Yeah. I think number 6, yeah. It's quite really awkward.
I think these 3 are the most, or these 4 are the most useful, right? Because they're comfortable and they're good and everything is solid on that, right? Okay, yeah. Cool. Okay, so that's running through the criteria a little bit on grammatical range. And then when we go into pronunciation here, you're pretty much good to go. It's just, the only comment I'll have on this one is that while we've been working on the essays, I see how you read stuff and I read stuff. Sometimes we read it where we're processing and thinking and it's like blah, 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 like this, you know? And it's really good that we do that because it's our processing. The other part of it though is that when you are speaking, you already know you're going to be trying to be really, really clear with each word and keeping your mouth open as much as possible. But it's that different flow. Okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Now we're going to go into these IELTS prompts just a little bit. So we have gone through the criteria and we're going to go through the IELTS prompts of the day. All right. We have QC. I'll give you some demo answers, some tips and tricks. And then we have these little prompts at the end. Okay. All right. So
Okay, great.
now, as you take a look at these here, I'm going to do a quick custom change for you. Okay. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
All right. Okay, all right. So here we go. I got this jacket here for you. I got this not for you. I got this jacket for 100 baht yesterday. It's a Korean jacket.
Really?
Yeah,
So
it's a Korean
cool.
jacket, and it's from Daeha, I think electric company or something. I got another. Yeah, I got another one yesterday from Hyundai Robotics. Right, but when you take the test, I really want you to remember this day. Okay, it's always going to be better if you imagine you're talking to one of your friends instead of an examiner. Okay. Right. So
Yeah.
it's like, if you start feeling nervous, just kind of close your eyes and remember the ridiculous outfit that I'm wearing for you. And I'm like almost 40 years old and I'm dressing like a 20-year-old, but I think it's funny, right? It's funny. And like, it's that comfort that really helps a person achieve flow, right? And flow is where you are completely focused on a task. It's something you relatively enjoy and your mind is just firing really smoothly and well. We achieve flow in many different ways. For me, my life, I was always, I was a gamer when I was younger, right? So I could play for hours and hours and hours, right? And then as I grew older, it was like things like organizing my house, writing, in classes with my students or talking with my team. It's that I feel comfortable. I enjoy it. It's something that I don't really worry about, right? And so that's where humans, they achieve that flow. Okay. All right. So with part one, remember your answers are relatively short. It's only like maybe 1 to 3 sentences, perhaps. Okay. All right. You
Okay.
can use PEA, but it's a pretty condensed form. All right. All right. So now, if you would like to practice on your side and I ask the questions, cool. If you would like to ask me the questions and see how I answer, that's totally up to you.
Okay, I think I should ask the question and then you answer.
Grab. Okay. All right. I'm ready.
Let's see.
Okay. All right. Let's see it. Oh, I like it. High five. All right. Let's go. Let's go. Okay. A little like him. All right.
What would you like to share about your house, your home?
Right now, I am actually working on a workshop. So I'm learning how to install things on the wall, buying tools, and organizing everything.
What sorts of furniture do you have in your house, in your home?
All of the furniture in my home is pretty functional. It's a lot of wood, a lot of plastic, some IKEA furniture. We try to keep it functional.
Do you enjoy gardening?
I do. In Hinduism, there are 4 stages of life. And the third one after the householder is the forest dweller. And so I would love to be a gardener in a bonsai garden and just chill and become an old man like that.
Okay, that's good.
All right, good. Okay, so you saw how I was just keeping it short.
Yeah.
Keeping it short there. And then you also, I want to point out that I really did kind of integrate some of my projects in my life, right? So if you got any ones of the, like little ones there, that's a good time to kind of mention it if you can find the link. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. Okay, I'm ready. And then no brainstorming time for me. And then you don't have to read the bullet points if you like.
Yep.
And I'm not even looking at the prompt right now.
What?
I'm not even looking at the prompt right now.
Oh, really? So shall I ask you now, right?
Sure, yes. And then normally they give you a card. You know that already.
Yeah, already. Describe your family friend.
Okay.
Shall I read below description?
Up to you.
Okay, I will read to you. When and where you saw it, what type of film it was, what the film was about, and explain why it is your family friend.
Okay, all right. And then I'm turning on my timer. And then after this, I'll help you with some of the brainstorming and mind mapping. Okay, all right. So we have
Okay,
timer, 2 minutes. Oh, no.
it's 200.
Yeah, okay. Reset. And then change this to, okay, all right, starting here. Okay, my favorite film is Forrest Gump. I lost my hat when I watched it. It was a Mickey Mouse hat. It was wonderful. I was with my brother and his wife, and he had taken me to go see Forrest Gump. And it is really one of the greatest films in my life, and in my opinion, in all of human history of media. It tells a story of a guy who has about 70 IQ, and he lives a remarkable life being connected to almost every single major historical event of the 1960s and 70s. It's such a beautiful film. Whenever I think about the end scene, it's Forrest Gump with his son, and both of their heads are tilted to the left, and they're enjoying this beautiful lake scene. And it's his son that he had with a girl that he loved all of his life, but she had AIDS and she passed away, and he buried her, and it was such a sad story. And the biggest thing that I learned from this film was that you can be anyone and you can be anything. You just have to go for it. You just have to say yes. It's where I see so many people in this world sad or insecure or disappointed in like what their ability is or what they can do or how other people are better. And I think it's really sad because in this film, it celebrates the beauty of one life and one story, that almost 8 billion people on this planet have one, right? Now, if I complain, I would say social media is kind of changing it all. But in conclusion, my favorite film was Forrest Gump, and I loved it so much. We cried, and I lost my Mickey Mouse hat. Okay, all right.
Sure.
Okay, so now when you look at that answer, you were asking me the question. So that's where you would be reading the card, right? And by the time the question was answered or asked, I was already thinking about what film I was going to pick, right? The first thought I had was, oh my God, what film should I pick? I have no idea what movie I should pick, right? And then I ditched those thoughts because they do not help me, right? And then I started thinking about what are some movies that I can bring up to my mind right now, right? And then my mind started going lots of different windows and thoughts and ideas, emotions. And then I was thinking about crying in a movie and then remembering being with my brother and losing my hat, right? And then I just went into the story, trusting that my brain would bring back details of the story as I was going into it, right? I got a little bit lost about a minute in, realizing like, oh my God, I got to keep going, right? And the conclusion was horrible because I started mentioning something else that was like completely disconnected, you know? But I did try to bring it back and then try to remember what I was talking about in the beginning, right? To make it a circular answer. In real life, it seems like linear answers are better, but for the IELTS, circular answers, right? Nice and round are good answers, okay?
Okay.
Okay, all right. Now, when it comes into brainstorming with this, you have about 60 seconds to go in with it. Did they give you 60 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, 60 seconds for
60
preparing.
seconds of brainstorming. Okay, all right, cool. So like the best thing that I found for brainstorming is that you make a little mind map on the card, right? The first thing that you're going to think about is your hard information, right? Oh, is your dog okay? Was he like scratching at the door?
Oh, no, I the sound is somewhere, but I looked to the door, but I think she downstairs, but my other dog is in the room. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, all right, cool. So with mind mapping, the first thing that you're going to try to brainstorm for two things immediately, right? One will be your hard information that helps you, right? The next one is going to be your emotional feelings, right? So whatever emotions you had with it, those two together will get you started when you're giving your answer, right? Because remember, the other side of it is that people don't really remember what we say and what we do. They remember how we make other people feel.
Yeah.
Or how we make them feel, right? Safe and comfortable. 10 years down the road, you will not remember a lot of the details of what we talked about, but you'll remember how you felt during our classes and our times together. Trippy, huh?
Yep.
So hacking that, right, for this is understanding that you have your finite information, the film. Then after that, you're thinking about your emotions. And then you think of your brain will naturally go into what your brain understands as the reasons for those emotions, right? And then that's where that flow starts to get really easy when you're talking about it. If you ever get lost, that's where you look back at your card at the little bullet points, right? And see. And one really important point right here is going to be that you are not required to hit every bullet point. Okay, right?
Okay.
Because on the writing test, it's that task achievement is one of the criteria metrics, right? But for the speaking part, there is no task achievement category, right?
Oh, okay.
So the only way that they'll really measure relevance is that speaks fluently with only rare repetition or self-correction. Any hesitation is content related rather than to find words or grammar. So notice that they do mention content here kind of as a sub point, right? But it's not like the writing prompt. Okay, that's the big difference.
Okay.
So with this, when you look at it, I guess you could have some flexibility, right? You have some flexibility. It could be a favorite film, but then you could maybe swap for like a YouTube video, right? You could swap with like a Netflix series, right? You could swap it with any kind of media that's moving, really. Okay. Right?
Okay.
And so that's where, when and where you saw it. I mean, you could say I was home and watching it, but you could also say, what was your mental state when you saw it? Right? And that would be an upgrade, you know? What type of film it was, yeah, categorizing is great, but it's really only one word. You know what I mean? Right? So you can describe what type of film it was to you. Right? Here, what was the film about? Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory, you know, and explain why it's your favorite film. That would be good to talk about it for sure. Right? But you can adapt all these things here. I wonder if you said, if you went into a film that you hated most, I still think that they would have to use a criteria to judge you. And like, they couldn't really. Yeah, I like, it would be really,
Okay,
it would be debatable, yes. But
yeah. Because the question say your favorite movie, but you say about that you say that
the one you hate most, right? It's
the
like,
one you hate, but so it's quite contrast. So I think
yeah, like
it's possible to
I'd open it. I know. I'd open it with the sentence like, I can't think of my favorite film right now, but I can tell you the one I hate most.
Yeah, me too. Sometimes we remember a thing that we already had.
Yeah, right. And then it just depends on whichever one comes up first and fastest, right? Like, we're not trying to find the best answer right away. We're trying to flow, right?
Yeah.
I've done it where I've gone like maybe 20-30% away from the prompt before when I've taken the test as well, and it's been fine, right? But never a complete contrast for sure. Yeah. Okay, good. So that's your mind mapping, your 60 seconds, right? Your hard information, 5 senses, and then emotion, right? And then your brain will look for reasons of emotion, and then you're trusting that you find the details through your process. Okay?
Okay.
Cool. All right. And remember, you're imagining that your IELTS examiner looks like me, right? And you're talking to your friend, right? Okay. And he's wearing a hat, and it's like an old man who's dressing to try to be cool. Right? But he's older than me, right? Yeah. Like 60 years old, maybe, and wearing this. Oh, that would be hilarious. Okay. All right. Topic discussion here. All right. So you're the examiner here. This section is just a few minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you think the cinema has increased and decreased in the popularity in recent years?
100% decrease for sure, right? 100%, I guess, in terms of how I think about it. It's just with the advent of Netflix and YouTube in the last 10 years, I haven't gone to a movie in almost maybe 4 years, other than one time watching Dune with my friend Kyle.
Okay. In your opinion, will this trend continue in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think cinemas will start to focus, and there won't be as many around, but there will be select key ones around where people still go there to really enjoy the big screen experience.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of making films of real life events?
Sorry about this following answer, Eve. Okay. I would say that it brings to mind a really key idea. It makes me think of history belongs to the victors, right? So throughout human history, the winners of wars are the people and countries and groups that write history. So I would say the advantages of making films of real life events would be that a person can report what the real life event is in a way that's different from history in the past, because you don't have to necessarily only be alive or survive to report history, because now every single person has a device like this where they can just actually report everything that's happening, and it has almost a blockchain aspect to it, where when there are more sources of data or reports on one subject or event, it's harder to lie about it.
How important do you think it is for a filmmaker to remain true to the original story?
That's a terrible question. I would say I would say that it depends. It depends. It really depends. If that person is making a documentary, then they should try to stick to the facts of the original story as much as possible. If the filmmaker is creating a creative original story, then they should have something I like to call creative latitude, which means the freedom to change and adapt a plan to make it better.
Should films and televisions be censored, or should we be free to shoot what we see?
Absolutely, it should be centered 100% again. If you look at the internet and then the dark web, the dark net, and then you think about some of the stuff that YouTube has to control, the algorithms, everything, is that we should really not be able to see everything out there that people put, because there are some really terrible things. For example, there was one popular YouTuber who went to a Japanese forest, and a Japanese person had committed suicide, and they actually showed the person who had killed themselves on the YouTube video, right? And there was a huge scandal from it, huge controversy, and that's why certain things like that should be censored. It's tough though, because it should happen automatically, but then that means that the censorship goes to AI. And I hope that cybersecurity lawyers of the future will be able to fix this. Okay, all right.
How do you think censorship laws will change in the next 20 years?
Well, extending from my last answer, right? Well, extending from my last answer, I would say we have to make this really clear decision on how much AI is responsible for censorship, right? And it's such a giant battle, because there is an exponential growth in content online available that needs to be censored, and it will take a great amount of money and budget to combat it with adding the human filter. So I don't really know how governments will look at that. It is a little bit scary on my cynical side. The optimistic side in me says it should really happen, because I just can't imagine my son being able to have access to some of those terrible videos.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, boom, done. Okay, all right. So go ahead.
No, nothing.
No, okay.
It's done.
Okay, cool. So what would you say, or like some key differences between part 1 and part 3 in my answers?
I think part 1 is like a short answer, right? What like just gives the answer, but for the part 3, you provide more information about what the question asks you, and try to explain it more and more around 4 or 5 sentences, and make it cohere between which answer.
That was a great analysis there. And let me add one way to organize it in my head, kind of like the way that I see it. So the way that I've always described it with my students is that part one should really only be information connected to you, right? Surface level stuff. That's the first degree, right? Part two there is, in this case, describe your favorite film. So I described it, but then I went into talking about who I was with, the memory, the detail, why it's important to my life. And so that would be the next circle too, where you're going into more detail about the way that you think and see the world, right? With the prompt, okay? And then in part three, that's your macro level circle where I wish the numbers were switched on this thing. But at one, that's where I really took time to look at my community, a country, and what I saw about the world in general for these discussion points, right? So it's that those are the little circles moving up and out, right? So when you're in part one, you know that you're keeping it pretty tight, right? Surface level, that's where this infographic is confusing. I'm sorry. But you get what I'm saying, right? And then the next point after that is going to be where, yeah, it's just an expansion of you, right? Based on the prompt, because the prompt is interchangeable, right? They ask whatever, right? But the purpose is to just give more information about yourself. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then the third one is your chance to like say what you got to say about macro level discussion. And it's kind of like where you get onto a soapbox and you're preaching against the world. Soapbox preaching. It's the lecture time, man, right? It's that. And this is the part you're damn good at because you're a freaking lawyer, you know? Right? But yeah, you know, so like the complete picture of what you're trying to imagine is that I am sitting here and I have this hat and you're talking to your friends in a discussion, right? It's that this examiner, he plays the role of one of your friends and it's a comfortable place at university. And it's one of those really free, open discussion times, right? And then you have your chance to get on their soapbox and kind of preach to the world about what you think is right and wrong, you know? And that's what that's a very good place to be for part three. However, again, you know, one of my weaknesses is that I kind of think about a lot of things, you know, and then I see lots of connections between topics where, you know, a lot of people in my life, they don't, you know, so you have to gauge that as well, right? You can't really confuse them too much. It depends on your flow, right? I feel like I cheat when I talk about complex subjects because I know how to transition between them. And like when somebody's with me in real life, they flow with me. But when it's a different scenario or they're watching the video, sometimes it's like, huh? You know? And
yeah,
that's the idea, right? That's the idea there where you're going macro level, somewhat focused, and you're on your soapbox preaching. Cool?
cool.
Okay, all right, stopping the recording now. All right, bum, bum.